All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday morning here in Townsville. My name's Erin. I am the Project Manager at Regional Development Australia, Townsville and Northwest Queensland. I'm just going to quickly share my screen with you and we'll get started and get straight into all the information that you want to know and hear from about JCU's latest projects. So a little bit about RDA for those who don't know who we are. Get that through. So Regional Development Australia is an Australian government funded initiative. There are 52 RDAs around Australia and 12 in Queensland. You can see on the map. We are the circled section. We are a not-for-profit incorporated organisation, and we've been established for just over 10 years now in Townsville. Our chairs are appointed by our minister, and then the chair goes through a recruitment process to create a committee that governs our strategic direction. Currently we have 8 committee members, and Townsville and Northwest Queensland RDA covers 15 local government areas. So Townsville right out to Mount Isa up into the Carpentaria, and a little bit south of us, and we cover about a quarter of Queensland. So we have a big area to look after. How today's webinar came about was through a recent initiative called the Building Jobs in Northern Queensland project. You can pop onto our website, rdanwq.org.au, and you'll be able to see a little bit more about our project. It's been going for a few months now, but has changed, I suppose, what it was looking to initially do due to COVID. I know many of us have had to change the way that we work in recent months. There's some points that might be of interest to the people attending today are our civil and commercial construction database. This one is about to have a new release in the next couple of weeks with more user-friendly functionalities. This actually shows some of the upcoming projects, proposed projects, and underway projects throughout our region. We've also got some webinars that we've done earlier that may be of interest to a lot of people, and they're all available on the website to watch. And we have done some interviews from some of some key construction and civil and commercial employees from around the region, so they're really interesting to watch, and there is some training and education information available to you as well. So please pop on and have a look at the Building Jobs in Northern Queensland project and follow us on social media as well. So thank you for joining us today. I'm not going to talk because you're not here to listen to me. I'm going to hand over to Hilary, who will share his screen and let you know a little bit more about what's happening out at JCU. So JCU, Hilary, I'm going to make you a host, so hopefully you can share all easily. And you're just still muted. I'll just see if I can. There we go.
Can you see my JCU screen, Abby?
Yes, all's working. Thank you.
Excellent. Oh, sorry, Erin. Thank you. Morning, everyone. Thank you. I think there's a fair number of people out there, so thank you for tuning in. And we've got a good few slides to get through, so I'll get started straight away. JCU has a new branding, TropIQ, which is our Tropical Intelligence and Health Precinct, which effectively is our Townsville campus, the university, Townsville University Hospital, and the effective region around here. I'm working closely with Townsville City Council. We're trying to create a new precinct which will bring, without exaggerating, hundreds of millions of dollars of construction and hopefully thousands upon thousands of jobs to the area, both in construction and operating. Some of these projects sit within that scheme or branding scheme, and I'm going to just go through them as quickly as I can. You don't have to take notes. You can tune in and listen to my dulcet tones instead, because Erin will upload this presentation a short while after the webinar finishes. So if I see if I can get my screen to move forward. It's a bit lumpy, so talk amongst yourselves, so to speak. technology when you need it. There we go. So most of this data, this is just a quick bit of data around JCU to remind those of you how important we think we are in the region and our influence in the region. So most of this data is publicly available on our JCU Impact Report. So if you do a search on JCU Impact Report 2018, in the footnote there, you'll be able to pick a lot of this up. But you can see we are a big regional employer. We do invest in regional and remote Queensland, both through our capital budgets and our operational budgets. And if I was to hover on the last point at any point there, just to reinforce our impact, our impact has grown by over 50% since in the last 8 years, effectively since 2012. And from this presentation, you'll continue to see that, or you'll see that we're continuing to grow even in these testing times. Our area of impact, well, it's all of Queensland really. And if I was to suggest to you that these main projects I'm presenting here are just Townsville, and we have activity in Cairns, which we talk to the Cairns market about, and we just do our regional and remote through normal tendering processes. And you know, to give the odd contractor a little plug every now and then, Adrian Gabrielli has helped us deliver a nice new student accommodation facility out in Burketown last year, which has been exceptionally popular. And with the current portfolio of subjects that JCU is offering and courses, we've got a significant amount of growth happening in Mackay and Cairns. So we may be back to the market in Mackay and Cairns shortly, looking for assistance to improve our facilities there. Just some recently completed projects, and yeah, this is an important slide because what this tells you is, as I go through them clockwise from the top left, our Central Plaza was delivered by Willems. The Ideas Lab in Cairns was delivered by WAPAC just a month or two ago. Just beneath that, the Science Place in Townsville, that was delivered by Lend Lease, and in bottom left corner, the student accommodation in Cairns was delivered just a couple of years ago by ADCO. The standout lesson here is that there's no preferred supplier. Each process is run independently, and the provider wins because they interpret the tendering correctly and they submit the best response. So there's no, as I say, no preferred suppliers. It's the best team on the day wins the opportunity. So just a few slides on the current projects. The image here is CES. You'll hear the odd plug every now and then, as I said. CES are doing an excellent job on the enabling works for the Townsville student accommodation, and that's the main site in the foreground. And if you were to move your eye a little left to the crop of trees, that's the area where the Technology Innovation Complex, the other big project we're going to talk about, that's where that's going. And we'll talk a lot about Indigenous engagement. The building to the right there, I'm not sure if my mouse hovers on this, if you can see it, that's our IERC, our Indigenous Education Research Centre. So our Indigenous education and engagement is really important to us, and we'll emphasise that through this project. Sorry, this webinar. So there are the three main projects in a snapshot sense. You will be familiar with these in a headline sense. We have talked through them on a few occasions with you in the past. And as I said from the earlier slide, the best tender responses will win their share of this work, of course. So now we get into some heavy lifting. Sorry about that. I'm not a big fan of lots of words on the slide, but I'm conscious that you will get access to this later, and therefore the information may be helpful to you. So the TIC, which is the Technology Innovation Centre, and the TSA, which is the student accommodation. So we will use abbreviations from now on, if that's okay. They're both Commonwealth projects, and because they're Commonwealth funded in that we borrowed the money from NAIF. Now, they didn't give it to us, that would have been nice, but we borrowed it from NAIF, which is the Northern Australia infrastructure facility. And because of that, there's certain criteria that we have to meet. And of course, if we have to meet it, the principal contractors have to meet it, and therefore the subcontractors have to meet it too, and suppliers. So the Australian Industry Participation Plan is one of the key elements, or key bits of, if you like, processes that we have to adhere to, and key rules that we have to respond to. And there's some dot points there, but rather than reading them, let me focus on the bold areas. So, you know, second dot point, this is all about JCU, and therefore the principal contractor, etc., being fair and reasonable and creating opportunities for everybody. The third dot point refers to not relying on existing supply chains. And I think I've emphasized that on that recently completed project slide, where we demonstrated that there was a different supplier or different principal contractor in each one. It's about creating opportunities for the Australian industry and not the globe. It is about this country, and as we get into Queensland procurement, it is about this state and this region. We do want to and have to communicate as best we can to ensure everybody is aware of the opportunity. And Abby and ICN will present to you about his gateway and how you do that. And that's really important that you understand the ICN process, because that's one of the main filters for the supply chain here. So this, as I say, we've talked about principal contractors, we've talked about subcontractors, we've talked about suppliers. This applies to all the tiers. And this is really about creating opportunities for you guys. Sorry, there's a web link on the bottom there. So when you download this, or if you're doing screen prints, screenshots, it's up to you. And the web link there gives you an awful lot of information about the AIPP if you're not familiar with it. Another key pillar in this whole process, of course, is our industry engagement strategy. And there is an actual document written on this, as there is with the AIPP. For the projects themselves, holistically, we're looking for a minimum of 3% Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander employment. Now, that's not a big number in our region when you think that 7.9% of our population is Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. So the bar hasn't been set too high, but it may be a challenge for some of us. And therefore, this is not about every single package getting 3%, but us getting 3% overall. And it's not a token number. There are things we must achieve. So we touch on that as I go through these slides. It's about employment, it's about induction, it's about training, and it's about creating opportunities and building businesses. So it is a really important aspect of each project, and I encourage you to respond really positively in this area. Again, the bold aspects there, the bold issues there will jump off the page, hopefully, and make sense to you. Continuation of our IES obligations. We do have a reconciliation plan. If you have one, then that's great. Tell us about it in your submissions. We will provide cultural awareness training to everybody. As principal contractors will do induction training, we will provide cultural awareness training. We will provide contacts for Indigenous businesses if you need them. We can do that through ICN and other organizations. And we do expect you to provide training, induction, mentoring, and upskilling these businesses and people. So local government participation. So this is where we move then from the Commonwealth really to our feds, whichever way you like to describe it, to the state legislation areas. So we're getting a little bit more specific here. So it's unfortunate we have a lot of bureaucracy to respond to, but it is in all our best interests. So this is about local benefit tests. So all our tendering processes have a local benefit test. And within that, there's a loading, there's a percentage loading, depending on where you are geographically based, or where your staff are geographically based and where those benefits come from. So if your head office is in London, but you've got an office in Townsville with 50 or 100 people working from it, then as far as we're concerned, you're locally based. If your kids go to the same school as my kids, you're locally based, and so forth. So it's really important that you emphasize that to us in your submissions, and it's really important that everyone appreciates that we do the best we can to ensure we engage properly in this regard. So it's about benefiting US suppliers, US contractors, and ensuring that you get your fair share of the opportunity. And then if you are the best submission, you will not just get a share of the opportunity, but you'll get a share of work. So other elements such as capability, quality, price remain critical to the team and the project. However, factors such as stimulating employment, increase in socio-economic development within the region, including employment and training, and supporting social objectives should be considered amongst the decision-making criteria. So we're telling you there what some of the criteria is. So by doing that, it helps you shape your response. The better the responses, the better the project in our regard. So if you haven't seen it, please do go online and look this up. As I say, it's very focused on driving Queensland and the region in which the project occurs. So again, ICN pick up on all of this in their evaluation, and they advise the principal contractors as well as advising JCU. So you can see the local region is that's 125-kilometer radius, not diameter, around Townsville. Probably north, south, and west rather than, I'm not sure how far east we can go before we run out of land. So I'll focus on the two main projects here. The project to the left here is a student accommodation, and the project to the right is the TIC. And if I zoom in on the TIC initially, it's a pretty impressive looking bit of architecture. So we are relying on you to convert that into a usable space for us so that our students and staff and industry can engage properly in there. In the foreground, we have the plaza and the ideas market. That's the landscaped area with water features and pretty impressive collection of trees. So that's the look that you will see if you were to drive up Mount Stewart Street for a geographical guidance. Some of the criteria of the building, a project is just over 93 million. The ORLB are QS, and they've estimated that the construction value is around 70 million. It's not that big a building really, it's ground and 3 levels, so it's pretty easy to build. I hope that's for the benefit of the principal contractors and to encourage them to price it properly for us. The GFA is just under 9,500. And you can see we got some sustainability criteria in there. ICN, they are going to present on this, and they've got some dedicated pages to it. These are some of the renders of what the building should look like. The top image there is looking at the building from the west. So you're looking at the east face. Looking at it from the west, looking eastward. So you're looking at the west face of the building, or the main entrance. That's the profile. The bottom left is from Mount Stewart Street, and the bottom right is really from the Indigenous Education Research Centre. A few more images of the inside of the building, and the bottom right shows you that there's a bit of, hopefully there's a good bit of engineering going into the design about sustainability and the operation of the building. So this is where we are really from a procurement perspective. So the procurement strategy, we've already got our principal design consultant, as you would expect, to be going to be this far along in the project. They have engaged all the sub-consultants to date. The enabling works are being done by CES, which I touched on earlier. And 4 principal contractors that have been shortlisted from the EOI, which ran earlier this year, are CPB, Hutchinson's, Lend-Lease, and Wattpac. That's not in any favoritism, that's in alphabetical order for those who are trying to work out, read between the lines. And we will be going out with a traditional lump sum AS4000 JCU amended contract. I'll let that hover for a moment. They are the contact details for each of the PCs that are shortlisted. Again, the presentation will be available shortly after we finish. And there's the, I suppose, the timeline around the procurement schedule. So we first presented this back to you in 2018. We've done another breakfast earlier this year before COVID became an issue for us, and Matt Joyce presented that in February, and the rest of the timeline is there for all to see. So if you were to focus on one, I'd imagine we would be looking at the expected release of the ORFT, which is around the 14th of October, with the close about 5 weeks later in November. The opportunity for Australian industry involvement, these are just some of the packages which you obviously will be aware of. I think there's 25 listed there, but you know, there's so many other packages that are not listed, whether it's flooring. I mean, if you just look at flooring, we've got wooden floors, concrete floors, vinyl floors, carpet floors. I think we've ticked every box known to man in that regard. So there's plenty of opportunity, as I say, and if we are as successful on this project as we were with the Science Place, we had over 1,000 local tradespeople inducted through Lend-Lease onto the Science Place site a few years ago. So if we can do that well here, then it bodes well really for local subcontractor market. Technology, it's taken over the world, isn't it? There's some of the packages in technology. Again, I'm sure if you're in that space, there's something there for you. If I move on to the more pressing project, and Peter from Hutchinson's will present shortly on this, but the student accommodation is beating the tick to the start line. There's the credentials for this project. Again, the siting here is on Mount Stewart Street. It's the first site you'll see as you drive up Mount Stewart Street. So if you come onto the campus through the main entry and you get to the clinical practice building or autos and turn left, you will see the CES activity on your right-hand side. That's this particular site. So it's a 400 bed, just over 400 beds. It's a ground plus 6 levels. It's coincidentally the same, it's not a typo, it's coincidentally the same area as the TIC, and it's got sustainability credentials too. Smaller budget, obviously. The construction budget here is circa 46. That's deliberate. I'm not giving you an exact number. It was a competitive process, and Hutchinson's won it on merit, so I'll just give you a circa number for that. That's what it should look like when we're finished, if you guys manage to pull it off for us. Top left is the building from the, if you're looking at it from the, I suppose, our medical precinct. On the right-hand side, top right is the building as you would look at it from the TIC, and the bottom two are the dining area or the master chef kitchen. So when the students have cooked for themselves, they'll then sit down in areas like this to eat. The project update, and as I said, Peter will go into an awful lot more detail on this, I hope. We've engaged RCP as our project managers. Nathan under Richard is our PM. Hutchinson's are engaged under a D&C AS4902 amended contract. Nettleton Tribes with local architect I4 are architects on this. Nettleton Tribes out of Brisbane as well. We've touched on the other aspects already. The final project that we have is an ongoing project. So we started a campus renewal idea with the university back in 2016, and the university saw the merits of it and decided that it was worth funding. And Matt Joyce and his team have been delivering this have since then. Well, I suppose for the last 2 years they've been delivering. It took us 2 years to get the funding right. Most of the contracts under this are either 4902 or 4000. We believe most of the fit-out work will sit under the D&C 4902, and the demolition works will probably sit under the fully documented. We will procure this because it's so many smaller projects. We'll probably procure this as we have been under Q tender, and we will just do the 2 main projects under the ICN banner. We may change as we go forward, but for now that's the way it's sitting. The credentials for this project are Effectively, the total area we want to refurbish is nearly 20,000 square meters. We're going to demolish even more, as you can see. The whole idea of this is to reduce the size of the university and make us more economical to operate, but also improve our utilization of our assets. Our utilization is very low. We don't need the volume of space we have. So you're going to ask me then, why are we building the TIC? Well, the TIC is 10,000 square meters of new space, and it allows us to demolish over 20,000 square meters of space because we're consolidating into it. We can operate it more efficiently, and it's a contemporary design, unlike the designs we have. So we can deliver in using the modern modalities of teaching rather than the old didactic approach to teaching through the new structure. Here's some of the buildings. So if you go onto the JCU website, you will be able to do a search on building numbers. So on the left column here, they're building numbers. We still use 3 digits for most buildings, but you can just type in building 20, you can just type in 25. It'll show you where on the campus building 25 is, and it'll tell you, for example, that that's nursing. So there's the list of buildings. They're the ideal start dates for each of the projects. I'll just draw your eye to the 4th one down. Building 25 is our business low building. It's on the, I suppose, the western side of the campus on the ring road there. It's got 2 dates. It's not an error. The first date is the internal demolition, and the second date is the, we hope, is the commencement of the project. There's a list of demolitions where we hope to do that. So as I said, there's something for everyone. You can see there, yes, you will be right if you add up the column on the right-hand side. That does not add up to 57,000 square meters. There's another wave of demolition which is not in here at all. I touched on building 27 as the next building in this campus renewal project process. We had hoped to be nearly finished building 27 now, but we have that small issue with COVID-19 to address. And because we have been impacted by that, we've taken the opportunity to reimagine how we want to do business. Are we looking at space in the right way, whether it's office space, teaching space? So we're revisiting our brief on, we're taking the opportunity to revisit the brief for this building. So we will be going through that process with the architects. Counterpoint, again, our local architect on this project, working with Cox out of Brisbane. And when we've reimagined what the building should look like, we will then come out to the market, probably, as I said earlier, with a D&C contract. And we hope that to be the first half of next year. Total project for the refurb is about 10 million. There's some dates for you. There's not much information there apart from saying we want to do it all next year, I suppose. So what are our standards? So the idea of this is to share with you the standard we're looking for when we do a refit. So the image, it's quite open, it's quite bright, it's very airy, and RCQ did an exceptional job when they delivered on this. This was a Kirk counterpoint design. They did an excellent job, and we haven't looked back since. And what it's done really is set a new bar for our expectations on refurbishments. And if you want to go and see that space in reality, if you get hold of Matthew Joyce or the team, and you're going to ask me, how do you do that? Matt and the team can arrange for you to come in and have a look and talk you through our expectations. So there's some contact details for you. This page is, they tell me, in priority order, so I'm at the bottom, so I'm least important for you guys at least. Matt and his team are listed accordingly. And there's our procurement team. So if you have any questions or doubts about the way we do our procurement, that's our procurement team. We do have probity involved in every project, and for those involved, you would be introduced to the probity officer in that process, and they are also an independent reviewer. So we're down to the last 3 slides. We've gone out to the shortlisted proponents for the TIC, and in there, of course, we've got the successful principal contractor for the TSA. And these 3 slides effectively summarize the feedback that they have provided to us, along with some things that the team have put in themselves. So I'm not going to go through them all, and I've deliberately not highlighted anything on these 3 slides because they're all important. Otherwise, the principal contractors would not have said it. It is important that you read these, and it is important that you're familiar with them. Some of you will say, well, of course we do that. And trust me, some of you don't do this when you submit. The amount of error we see on tender submissions is phenomenal. I know it's because you're busy and you're trying to get through a lot of work, but a little bit of care will always give you a better chance to score a higher mark. So these are here to help you provide a stronger submission so that you've got a better chance of being successful. Here's the second page. Sorry, if I go back to the first one. The bottom, if I was to emphasize one on that page, I'd emphasize the bottom one. That bottom one is really important to the principals. You must, to help them out and to ensure that processes are expedited in the time frame that they have, it is important that you list any assumptions you make when you're pricing. And then they list those assumptions to us when they submit their tenders to us. Sorry, back to that second page. Quality, safety, the aspects are in here. They are really important to us. And you can tell from that fit out, quality is important. You can tell from the designs, quality is important to us. But paramount is safety. We just make sure everyone who comes on campus leaves at the end of the working day. And the final page, again, compliance with Fair Work Act. It's in there, it's really important. JCU will be employing a clerk of works. It's been a very successful approach to us. That's just our eyes and ears to give us absolute confidence that you guys are doing what you've committed to do and what we've asked you to do. The one in the middle is probably one that's quite important to everyone. Own the finish date. If you're part of the team, the finish date is not fiction. Finish date's important to us, especially on the student accommodation. If we're not finished in time on the student accommodation, we effectively lose a year because we've got nowhere else to put over 400 students. So we really do need to finish on time so that they can move into their rooms. So if you are involved in that, if you are successful and get involved in that project, please own the finish date. And that's it from the university. I think Erin is going to run a Q&A at the end, and we're happy to answer questions at that time.
Thanks, Hilary. Yeah, so as Hilary mentioned, we will run some questions at the end. I just want to make sure we give all our guests today a good opportunity to have a chat and present. So we're going to pass over to ICN now to tell you a little bit more about their gateway. If you're good to talk. Are you right, ICN? Is your screen coming up?
Just trying. Erin, give me a second, please.
You're right. Hilary, it might be easier as well if you can. Oh no, here it's working perfect. Don't worry. There we are.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thanks for making the time early in the morning to come and listen to this important project, or couple of projects at James Cook University. So firstly, thanks to JCU and RDA, Townsville and Northwest Queensland for giving ICN this opportunity to present to you. Whilst Hilary has actually spoken about the strategic objectives that JCU has in terms of local industry participation, I'm going to talk about the operational side of those things and how ICN's helping JCU to comply with those requirements, both on local industry engagement and Indigenous engagement strategy. So I have got an assumption here that most of you guys, or at least a majority of you guys, would know who ICN is. But just for the benefit of those who are not familiar with ICN, I'm just going to show a quick video And I'm just hoping that technology will support in the sound of that video. So we'll see how we go.
Australia and New Zealand produce some of the brightest and most innovative contractors, manufacturers and service providers in the world. And although they're all different, they all have one thing in common: the constant search for new business. Likewise, many of the world's most exciting projects are happening right here in our region. And each of these projects needs the right local suppliers. What if there was an organisation that brought all these talented companies and lucrative projects together? ICN is passionate about doing just that. With a team of highly skilled technical consultants who have extensive industry knowledge, ICN offers a procurement solution like no other. For project managers, we make it easy to find the right local suppliers, saving time and money in supply chain development and ensuring local supply and support for the life of the project. For suppliers, we offer easy access to the best projects, large and small, both locally and overseas. ICN has 30 offices around Australia and New Zealand, with more than 100 technical consultants offering specialist skills in all major sectors. And by combining this personal service with ICN Gateway, a comprehensive online system containing more than 60,000 suppliers and around $247 billion in contracts, we make sure you'll never miss an opportunity to find the perfect partner. It's no wonder many of the region's largest buyers and government projects use ICN to make all the right connections.
I'm just assuming that worked because I couldn't hear it, but I'm hoping all of you guys could understand what that video said. So that was a quick introduction of ICN, and most of you would be thinking, well, that's essentially matchmaking. And yes, some people call us the eHarmony of business. But yes, that's the core of our business. We connect major project buyers with capable local suppliers. So we act as a conduit between a project buyer like JCU or a tier 1 contractor like Hutchinson, and we connect them with local companies that are wanting to access opportunities on that major project. How we do that? So yes, we are in the matchmaking business, but we're a lot different than the other databases. We're not just a database. We have the biggest database in the country, and that's called ICN Gateway. We also host Black Business Finder, which is Queensland's Indigenous Business Directory. And it's not a separate directory, it's a subset of ICN Gateway. It is a publicly searchable website. So coming back to why we are different from all the databases, we don't just offer that product, we offer a service to the project. And what that means is we employ specialized people who have worked in procurement, who have a technical background. There is a lot of manual intervention in the matchmaking process that is involved. And we're not just letting the database do a matching of projects needs to the capability of a local supplier automatically. It all happens through the human eyes. The services that we offer to projects, they vary from supply chain analysis or a mapping to business matching to bid list preparation. I'll actually show an example of a supply chain mapping that we've done for the student accommodation project with JCU. Business matching is when we download the list of expressions of interest. We don't carry out any evaluation, but bid list preparation is when we go an extra step in pre-qualifying a company against the criteria that's been given to us by the project. Now, local industry participation, Australian industry participation, Indigenous engagement strategy, they were mentioned multiple times by Hilary in his presentation. Essentially, that's what we do. That's the consultancy we provide to projects in helping them to comply with those requirements. Queensland Procurement Policy or the Buy Queensland Policy, the Charter for Local Content, Australian Industry Participation Authority, they've all got ICN written into them as the vehicle to be used for ensuring that local companies are getting that full, fair and reasonable opportunity to participate in the project. In addition to that, we host, or we used to host before the COVID, a lot of industry briefings. We used to host the Meet the Bidder Buyer sessions where we brought that face-to-face connection between the supplier and the project. That is now happening online. It's not that fun anymore, but yeah, we're just going with the flow at the moment, and just waiting for things to ease down and get back to the normal. Now, ICN, it's a national organization, and that's why it's called Industry Capability Network. There's an ICN office in every state and territory of Australia that is administered by the respective state or territory government. Nationally, ICN has got 80,000 plus businesses registered on its database. And that's not just the name and the contact details, it's a full-blown capability profile in terms of their clients, their projects, their licenses, their certifications, their insurances, their products and services, their retailer, wholesaler status, whatever you feel is important for a supply selection is part of the company profile with ICN. Here in Queensland, there's more than 20,000 of those 80,000 businesses. Queensland pretty much owns 1/3 of the database. In Queensland, ICN is proudly supported and contracted by Queensland State Government. We've got strong relationships with the Department of Regional Development, Manufacturing, Department of State Development, Tourism Innovation, Department of Housing and Public Works. We work quite closely with the State Development Office up in Townsville as well. And there's a lot of other things that we do. We are significantly engaged in the defense sector. So there's a defense hub up in Townsville that we work quite closely with in delivering defense and aerospace capability workshops to the industry. ICN has been operating for about 30 odd years, and that's the dollar value that ICN has helped facilitate to local companies. So that's about $1 billion on an average every year, and that's a national number. In Queensland, that number has been close to $3.5 billion for Queensland companies to Queensland projects in the last 9 years. And in the last 3 years, that number has been close to $1 billion. And what that means is companies that were introduced by ICN through its supply chain mapping or bid list preparation process to the projects have successful in winning $1 billion of contracts in total in the last 3 years. ICN's involved in a number of projects, and I'm just showing some of the examples here. Most of the significant projects use ICN as its process to go out to the market and invite expressions of interest. All the venues on the Commonwealth Games in 2018 went through ICN Gateway. That's the new performing arts venue in Brisbane, being done by Lend-Lease at the moment. Sunshine Coast University Hospital, $1.8 billion project in Sunny Coast, again developed by Lend-Lease. Cross River Rail, $5.4 billion project in Brisbane, the underground rail system. We're actually working on the tunnel stations and development package now. It's up on ICN Gateway at the moment. Queen's Wharf, $3 billion project by Destination Brisbane Consortium in Brisbane CBD, again up on ICN Gateway. Multiplex is the tier 1 contractor that we're currently supporting with their local industry identification on that. That's the project you're here for, and Hilary's actually spoken about that already, the Technology Innovation Complex. Forest Wind Farm in the Fraser Coast Gympie region, $1.2 billion project. It's up on ICN Gateway now with 22 odd work packages listed. Supporting BHP for their ship loader and berth replacement. So as you can see, ICN works across all industries. We're not just restricted to building and construction. We work in mining, oil and gas, defense, pretty much every sector that you can imagine. That's how ICN Gateway looks like. That's the homepage of ICN Gateway. That's where suppliers can actually register a new company profile. Registration on ICN is absolutely free. There is no cost involved. There are subscription packages available that will enable you to market yourselves on ICN Gateway, but to register a company profile, to receive alerts about opportunities, to express interest on an opportunity or a work package, there is no cost involved at all. If you're a company that's already registered with ICN, that's where you can actually log in, and we encourage you to go there and make sure that your profile is up to date and the information is current, because that is what gets assessed, and that is what gets passed on to the project owner or a tier 1 contractor. There is a looking for work section. This is where you can search for projects or its work packages. Technology Innovation Complex is one example. So you can use the word technology or innovation or complex or technology innovation complex or James Cook University, and that project will come up in the search results for you to have a look at the opportunities on that one. Looking for suppliers, people can come and search for suppliers. The search results, however, are restricted to the premium subscribers, one of the marketing options that I was talking about before. But as I said, in terms of any company applying for an opportunity, it is absolutely free and there is no cost associated to it. So coming to what assistance we provided to James Cook Uni for the student accommodation, as Hilary said, we were engaged by JCU to deliver a supply chain map report, or what we call as the contestability assessment and supplier map analysis. What that report actually means is we work with JCU to produce a list of potential work packages that could be required for this project, and identify where there is an opportunity for SMEs in the local areas to supply or deliver that specific work package. Then for each work package, we actually start looking into our database. We scan the database for companies in those 3 zones, which Hilary demonstrated. So zone 1 is within 125k radius, zone 2 outside 125k radius, but still in the region, and zone 3 is outside the region completely, but still in Queensland. And then we actually produce a report, and again, that's the definition of how the companies were searched. But essentially, I've just provided an example of one work package, and this is the kind of report that we've provided to JCU with the names of companies. Now, all these names are actually hyperlinks to the company's website, and essentially what this report is doing is it's actually providing these local companies an early opportunity, because JCU has shared this report with the bidding contractors, and the bidding contractors or the tier 1 contractors, when they were putting their submissions in, they actually got to know very early companies got some connections would have happened between the bidders and these local companies that ICN actually included in this report, which will eventually turn out into an opportunity for a contract delivery for these local companies, hopefully. What we did on the Technology Innovation Complex was different. There was a dedicated project page that was listed on ICN Gateway. The hyperlink of that is at the bottom of this page, jcu-tic.icn.org.au. This project page could have been searched from the looking for work section on the homepage, or could have been reached directly through that web link. This project page provided all the details of what the project is all about. It also had the name of an ICN person who could be approached if there was any question around accessing opportunities. At the bottom of this page, there was a list of work packages or opportunities. Each work package had an open date and a close date. So what I'm showing on the screen is just an example. It's not the actual list of work packages for DIC. Each work package had a scope of works document. Each work package was inviting either full scope or partial scope EOIs or both. And once local companies determine which work package is suitable for them and they decide to express interest, they click on that button in one of the full scope or partial scope EOI columns. They would have been presented with a list of questions. Now, these list of questions were carefully designed in conjunction with JCU onto what's important in terms of the local capability, what's important in terms of compliance with various policies. The questions in the red were mandatory and the questions were of various types. They were free text, they were radio buttons. The responses to these questions easily become the evaluation criteria for ICN and JCU or its tier 1 contractor. What we did subsequent to the closing of EOIs is we presented a sample report like this to JCU, which had for each work package, for each opportunity, which had the names of companies, the company's details, and their individual responses to each and every question. It was actually decided and agreed with JCU that these reports will be shared with the bidding contractors so that again they have early visibility to the local industry and their capabilities so that they could be engaged once that bidding contractor is successful in getting the managing contract for the IC. Final advice for suppliers, the takeaway message from ICN is if you're a business that is not yet registered on ICN, please do so. There are a number of opportunities, there are a number of projects that are currently listed on ICN and inviting EOIs. If you're a business that is already registered on ICN, please make sure that you log in at least once in 3 months and make sure that the information is up to date and current. Because as I said before, that is what gets passed on to the tier 1 contractors. Once you have registered your company profile, which is a one-off exercise, please start looking for opportunities and submit an expression of interest. Put your best foot forward. We're always there to answer questions. We're only an email or a phone call away. You will usually have the name of the ICN consultant on a specific project page that you can contact if you have any doubts or you need any clarifications in answering to an EOI questionnaire, or if you have any general questions about your company profile, we're always there to help. That pretty much sums up my presentation. ICN's contact details are on the screen for you to note down if you need to contact us at any stage. So with that, I'll actually hand it back to Erin.
Thanks. Thanks very much. We are going to move on to Peter, who is from Hutchinson Builders. So if Peter wants to share his screen and we'll get started and we'll hopefully be able to squeeze in. I do have one question. In the meantime, if anybody that is online while Peter's sharing his screen does have a question for any of the people presenting today, we should have time for a couple of them. So just put them in your chat box now so that I can be ready to do this straight after Peter's presentation. Over to you, Peter. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin. Hopefully everyone can see that. It's come through.
Looking good? Looking good.
First of all, I suppose, yeah, we'd just like to thank JCU for enabling us to be part of this exciting project. It is a good project for Townsville and especially for our local team here. So not very often you get a chance to build a $46 million student accommodation facility. At the moment, we're currently at 80% design. We submitted 80% through to JCU on Friday for review and approval. So things are going well. As Hilary outlined earlier, the program is extremely tight for TSA. We will be given site access as of Monday, and PC is due for December 2021. So tight program, and we're praying we don't get too much rain this wet season. So, as I said, we're on site, or we get site access as of Monday. So our major focus over the last few weeks has really been around the procurement of our early works trades. So I suppose once people start to see expressions of interest come out through the relevant media and forums, which I'll highlight a little bit later, you know, you'll understand sort of where we're at with our procurement phase. So at the moment, we've gone out for ground anchors, and they've been let. Our temporary services connections, electrical and hydraulics, and also our site sheds and amenities. So those packages have been let in line with our program. So, and they've gone to, a majority of those have gone to Townsville-based companies. So I suppose the next stage, which we've gone out for at the moment, is looking at our major early works trades, services, electrical, hydraulics and mechanical, and then our structural trades, you know, your concrete, post-tensioning, reinforcement, and then also our vertical transport, and also our tower cranes and temporary hoists. So we've got those packages out at the moment, and we're just waiting for pricing to come back in. The upcoming trade packages, as Hilary outlined before with the TIC project, there are a whole host of packages. I've tried to outline a few of the main packages on the project, but there are going to be significantly more, especially around the supply of materials and equipment. So I'm not going to go through and read all of those, but everybody, as Aaron said, will get a copy of the slide, and you know, you'll see the expressions of interest come out very shortly. So our advertising platforms that we're currently using, there will be ads going out in the Townsville Bulletin, Courier Mail, and also on Tenderlink. They will go out this week, and they will be for expressions of interest for all trades packages. And then from that, once we get the expressions of interest in line with our procurement program, we will then go out and request tenders from the relevant companies that have responded to us. We've got our tendering address there for the packages, JCU TSA at hutchies.com.au. All of our procurement policies are in line with what Hilary outlined in his presentation for the Queensland procurement targets, and also the Indigenous engagement strategies. So they're all targets and strategies that we're extremely familiar with, and we'll be ensuring that, you know, all of our subcontractors and suppliers comply with the targets. So as I said, exciting project. It is early days at the moment, but I can just, I suppose, urge everyone to keep an eye out for expressions of interest advertising over the coming weeks. So that's about it from us, Erin.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Peter. So I'm going to quickly move to, we do have a couple of questions, and our panellists will just jump on board to quickly answer those. I am mindful of time, so if people do need to head off to work now, otherwise I'm sure our panellists will have a few more minutes to answer some questions. So we do have Kurt asking, he's from a company called Quick Safety, asking that he said he couldn't see the electrical opportunities listed, but I do note that Peter has listed some as well. They're not electricians as such, but we're used by asset owners to ensure the electricians are meeting all standards, both federal and state. So I think this one's probably more directed at you, Peter, as a lead tier 1 contractor, and probably even ICN might have an ability to comment about listing the Quick Safety on your gateway. So if either of you have any comments about that.
I suppose from our perspective, as the principal contractor, you know, our main aim is to make sure that all of our contractors comply with all relevant regulations and industry standards. So we would obviously push that in the case of the electrical companies. We would push that down onto the electrical companies, and that's a requirement for those particular companies to make sure they comply. So I would recommend that, you know, they probably, I suppose, touch base with the electrical companies.
Yep. And ICN, I suppose there's an opportunity for them to list their business and services on the gateway?
I believe Quick Safety would be already registered. I haven't had a check yet, but I'm sure they're registered. And what that enables them to do is also express interest on various opportunities. And just like Peter said, at least for the Technology Innovation Complex, when the electrical contract gets awarded to someone, JCU will provide us those details, which we will publish on ICN Gateway on the public domain, and Quick Safety would be able to approach them with their innovative product to offer their services to that electrical contractor.
Wonderful, thank you. I have a couple more questions. I've got Aaron asking, how can we talk with the design team on LED lighting that is available or can be manufactured? So that's obviously before we're going out to tender, they're wanting to talk to the architects. Any recommendations from any of you how to get in early enough?
I can offer a comment, Erin. It's never too late to talk to the design team. Clearly, on the student accommodation, the design team is now novated to Peter, so you'd have to go through Peter's process to get hold of to do it properly. But we're always listing our designers. You can always call them up. They're all listed. Call them up, engage with them. Every significant project we undertake, there is a local architect on that, so whether it's I4, whether it's Counterpoint, and so on. They're all there. Just ring them up. They're listed. Ring them up and have a conversation with them about your technologies. Go and show them your technologies, and they will embrace it in our designs. We're always looking for innovation in our design. So if you have something that's innovative, give them a call. Failing that, keep an eye out on Q-Tender and Tenderlink for projects that come up, and put your filter in for architectural firms, not for electrical packages, and then you will see when major projects are coming out to architects, and then use that as a mechanism to engage with, as a timing mechanism to engage with architects.
Thank you. I have quite a few questions coming through, so I'm going to move through fairly quickly just to make sure we cover them on. Ewan, hi Ewan, has asked at what level, this is to ICN and James Cook, at what level do you see the development of Northern Australia as a selection criteria for infrastructure?
I'm a little bit confused by the question, but if I make a statement that might address it. If you look at the first couple of slides of the presentation, the JCU presentation, everything we do is Northern Australia or far Northern Australia, so far North Australia. So everything we do is in the Queensland region. Everything we invest is in developing the Queensland region. If we're talking about selection of contractors and trade packages, all of our procurement processes have a weighting criteria for local participation. So if you're a local contractor, you will score more highly in some criteria than non-local contractors. So we're allowed to do that, and we do it. So it's then up to you as a local contractor to ensure the rest of your package is competitive. We're giving you a step up through that criteria. Now make the rest of your package competitive and you will be the successful tenderer. I'm not sure if that answers the question.
That's right. We will, if there's any further clarification, I can coordinate with people to be in touch with each other. A couple more questions. JCU, where do you publish opportunities for external project managers?
All our tenders go through, we used to do TenderLink, we now do Q-Tender. So it's Q-Tender / ICN, depending on the scale of the project. So if you're registered on ICN and it's a large project, you're likely to find out about it. Failing that, always register on Q-Tender. It's free, it doesn't cost you a single cent. And if you're there and you've got your filters set up, you'll see our projects coming up. And we do have some, well, Matt, Joyce and the team are working on some new opportunities. And if we can bring them to fruition, then we'll be coming back to the market again with more work.
Thank you. A couple more questions. This is from Peter of Greencap, Queensland. Will the environmental assessments, management, health and safety, asbestos assessment services be released via ICN? Would probably be for your demolition works.
I think most of our demolition work at the moment is will go out through Q-Tender, but again, if you're registered there, you're not going to miss anything. However, I'm sure that we'll have a chat with ICN and see whether it's more practical for us to go out through ICN. So I'll have that conversation. Matt and the rest of the team will have that conversation with our procurement people, and we'll inform the market of our approach to that. And look, the more people competing for the work, the better the outcome for JCU and for Northern Australia, as Ewan would suggest. So yeah, keep an eye on all of these platforms that have been mentioned today. Most of them are free, if not all of them, and you're guaranteed to find out when the opportunities are coming out.
Excellent. I have two more questions and then we're going to wrap it up. So from David, will AS 1170.4 be implemented in this project, which is the earthquake code? And what importance level are we intending to work to? Might be Peter or?
Yeah, from a TSA point of view, yeah, definitely will be implemented. The importance level of the building, I think, is importance level 2. If memory serves me correct. So yeah, that's currently being worked through with the design team at the moment.
Excellent, thank you, Peter. And final question for today from Mitch from Carrier Fire and Security Products. Is JCU seeking a new access control and intrusion platform as part of upcoming work packages, and would this be advertised via ICN?
Yes, we're seeking a broader holistic access control system for platform for the entire campus. Our technology solutions team are working with the project team to come up with the ideal package for the university to use more broadly, and over time then every building on the university will adopt that system. So yes. And again, it'll either be Q-Tender or ICN. We'll talk to ICN about the benefits of doing that.
Wonderful. Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. I do apologise that we've gone a little bit over time. I know that you've all got things to head off to today. So thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you to JCU, ICN and Hutchinson's for being available. I hope you've got some good information out of today. Throughout today, I will work to get these presentations and this recording available on the RDA's website. And you will have received my email through your registration process. So if anybody needs any extra support afterwards, please get in touch. Otherwise, enjoy your wonderful Wednesday. Thank you so much. Talk soon.
Thanks, Aaron.